This is the experiment, the sock experiment with the size 32 fixed circular needle from ChiaoGoo, and I am going to work these two at a time, and they are a top-down sock pattern. So in order to do two at a time top-down, it's a little bit, the cast on is, you just have to know what to do. So I'm going to show you here. I'll cast on with the same cast on that I used before, a slip knot cast on. And you first cast on just half of the stitches for the first sock. And once I have all of those stitches on, just half of them for the first sock, then I actually pick up the yarn for the second sock. And I'm going to pull from the inside and the outside of the ball, just so I don't have to measure beforehand. But I will now cast on just half of the stitches for the second stalk. And once those are on, I'm going to rearrange the stitches a little bit into like setting up for magic loop. So I'll slide all of the stitches onto the cable and bring that needle up around again, and then I'm going to continue casting on the rest of the stitches for that second sock. So just make sure that right when you start, the stitches are kind of facing down, and you hold your needle as close as you can to that other cable. So using the same yarn, I'll cast on and just try to get that needle close and hold it together. Don't worry too much, you will see a little bit of a gap there, the string, but I promise that will get taken up later, so just keep going. And once you have all those stitches on, then you get to move back to that first sock. So just leave your working yarn hanging down for the second sock and move on to the working yarn for that first sock. And again, hold your needle close to that first one and form your stitches as close as you can to the other one. Okay, once we have all of those stitches on, now we have all the stitches we needed to complete the socks, and half of our stitches are like on one side of the magic loop, and the other half of the stitches are on the other side of the magic loop. And now we need to join everything in the round. So we'll spin our needles and just adjust the yarn a little bit. I'll push and pull out the back needle, and then kind of get the stalks. I always like to keep them kind of close together on the needles, but with our magic loops on either side. So here's where you do need to make sure that your stitches are all oriented in the right direction. Bring my needle around and do that little twist, but make sure that all your stitches are facing down. And then the trick here is to just knit the first stitch like normal. Don't worry about holding your yarn too tight. Knit that stitch and then pull tight. I think that kind of throws a lot of people off, but if you just pull tight after you form the stitch, it just makes things a little easier, so don't worry about it before then. And then you can kind of just keep knitting on. And then once you get to the last stitch, sometimes those last ones can be a little bit tight, but you just finish that last stitch. Again, you see that bar there? It will go away, I promise, so don't worry about it too much right there. But now we finished with that first sock, and now we need to join the second sock in the round. So here's where, again, we need to make sure that our stitches are all oriented in the right direction. I kind of start at the back and twist them all around so that my, like the bumps are on the bottom. And just make sure they're all oriented the same way. The loop that you're going to knit into is on the top and the other's at the bottom. And then bring your yarn, just make sure that it's not getting wrapped around the cable to give you an extra stitch or something. So once you've got it all lined up, then again, you're just going to start knitting. And don't worry about things really, just go ahead and get in and form that first stitch, maybe, and then pull tight. So now I pulled tight, and then I'm on that second stitch, I can pull a little bit tight too, and that will help with your not getting any ladders in between. All right, now we're all joined in the round, but next, all right, so I've got the last stitch to work here, and then I'll get things rearranged. So I just finished that last stitch, and now I'm going to spin the work. I finished there. I like to pull in Magic Loop a lot, so if you just find the cable that you want and pull it until it kind of goes into the stitches, and that kind of gets you a little bit more secure, I think. When you have, then you can see that you really have half the stitches on one side and the other half on the other side, and then you can pull out the needle from the stitches that you already worked and give it yourself that little twist, and then you're ready to start knitting. So now, let's see here, we're actually on the second half of the stitches for the second sock. And so we'll get going here. Again, it's the same technique I use. I just knit that first one like I don't really know any different, and then I pull tight on that second stitch. And that really helps the ladders not form. All right, here I'm finishing up that last stitch for the second half of the second sock. And I just kind of made it a little bit bigger. That'll help close up the loops too, but again, don't worry about them. They will get sucked up. All right. So now I'm going to start on the second half of that first sock. And again, everything should be lined up here. That looks a little twisted, but it'll get sorted out further back there. So I'm just gonna go with it and hope that it worked, otherwise I'll have to redo. Do check on which, for the second half, I actually did the last one wrong. I knitted instead of purled, and so I had to go back and redo the last one. So here I have to start with a purl. But it's the same concept. I just go ahead and purl like normal. And you can open up that stitch a little bit if you want to, but just purl like normal and then pull hard. And that will cinch up that gap. All right, then I'll just continue here. All right, so I've got one more stitch left on that first sock. So just go ahead and work that stitch, and then we'll kind of see what's going on here. So first I'm going to kind of pull the cable so that the needles come back into the stitches. I think that's just a better place to look at things and get anchored. And get those stitches on for that first sock. And then here's the second sock, and they are separate, so that's a good thing. And all right, now that's the first sock, so we're gonna get things twisted here, and then we'll look. So as you're knitting, you'll always be knitting the first half of the stitches for the first sock, then you'll knit the whole second sock, and then you'll come back and knit the second half of stitches for that second sock. Or sorry, for that first sock. And that's how you work the whole time, switching back and forth. And all right, thanks for following along as I'm doing this sock experiment, and I will keep posting updates as I go. Thanks.